Okay, so today we're going to dive into this really fascinating book that you sent me. It's called Shimana Quantum Code: A Journey into Multidimensional Healing and Infinite Love.
Yeah.
And it's by Shima Shad Rouh. So we're going to explore some of these ideas and see what we can glean from it.
Sounds good. I'm excited about
Yeah.
this.
So the main thing that kind of jumps out from this book is that it's a different way of thinking about healing. It's not just taking care of your physical body,
Really?
but it's going deeper. It's going to the roots, going to the soul level.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge piece of it. We think of ourselves as these physical beings,
Yeah.
but there's so much more to us, and this book really does a good job of addressing that.
Yeah. And it does that by using a lot of different tools. There are these things called sacred geometries, which we can talk about. There's these multidimensional frequencies that are discussed, Akashic intelligence, and then even just practical hands-on techniques like cortices tapping, which we can get into later.
Yeah, lots of really interesting things that are sort of outside of the normal realm of healing, at least how we typically think of it.
Right. Right. And I guess the underlying theme is this idea that we all have this innate ability to heal ourselves, and that by tapping into this deeper level of who we are, we can really unlock this unlimited potential.
Yeah, that's a really powerful idea. And I think it's something that a lot of people are searching for these days, that sense of unlimited potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we kind of go into the details, there's one interesting thing I noticed at the very beginning, and that was the author's name, Shimana. Apparently, it's not just a name.
Right.
This is a frequency, a divine healing frequency that was actually encountered in the Akashic records.
Wow.
And so it's almost like this name itself carries this energetic charge.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because the Akashic Records, that's this concept of like a universal library that holds all knowledge and experience. So it's almost like this frequency has been accessed from this universal source.
Yeah. And what's even more interesting is that the book suggests that even if you feel some resistance to the name Shimana, it could actually be a sign that you're having this energetic activation.
Sure.
So it's almost like this book itself is kind of a catalyst for some kind of a shift.
Interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense because anything that challenges our preconceived notions or beliefs can create a bit of resistance. And that resistance itself can be a sign of growth or transformation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I guess where we should start, the thing that seems to be absolutely fundamental to this system is the power of the heart.
Yeah, the heart plays a really central role here. It's not just seen as, the organ that pumps blood throughout the body. It's described as much more than that.
Right. It's like a transmitter of divine intelligence.
Exactly. And a lot of emphasis is placed on this idea of heart coherence. Basically, when the rhythm of your heart becomes very steady and harmonious. And the book says this has a really profound effect on our emotions, our thoughts, and even our electromagnetic field.
So it's not just this kind of mushy gushy feeling of like, oh, I love everybody. It's actually impacting our physical being.
Exactly. It's like this internal harmony that ripples outwards and affects us on multiple levels.
Yeah. And so a big part of this is this idea of shifting our awareness. Like, we're so used to operating from our minds, right?
Yeah.
Always thinking. But the book talks about really moving that primary awareness to the heart. And it says that that's when you really start to kind of embody truth.
Right. Because the heart is often seen as the seat of our intuition, our wisdom, our compassion. And so by shifting our focus there, we can tap into those qualities more readily.
So it's not just a shift in perspective, it's a shift in being. It's a shift in how we experience the world.
Exactly.
And that seems to tie into this whole idea of heart-centeredness,
Right.
which the book talks about a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being nice to people, it's about aligning with the divine love that's within each of us.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that divine spark, that connection to something greater than ourselves that resides within our own hearts.
And it says that when you do that, you're not only connecting to your true essence, but also to the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah, it's a beautiful concept.
Yeah. Yeah. And this even changes how you think about meditation. Because a lot of times, people try to just quiet their mind, right?
Yeah.
But the book talks about guiding your attention back to the heart. It's not about silencing the mind. It's about letting your thoughts kind of settle in your heart space.
And be transformed by that loving presence.
Yeah.
It's a really gentle approach. It takes the pressure off of trying to control our thoughts and instead invites them to be bathed in love.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so another thing that I thought was pretty interesting was this idea of the heart as a gateway.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful
It's
image.
like a connecting point between the visible and the invisible.
Right, like a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, the known and the unknown.
And it's even described as a bridge between human love, like the love we experience in our relationships, and a more universal divine love.
Yeah, it's like the heart is this central hub where all these different forms of love converge and flow out from.
Right. And it's not like this permanent state of bliss. It's about kind of developing this ability to return to that space of love, to return to that state of balance more quickly whenever you kind of get swept away by stress or negativity.
Exactly. It's about cultivating resilience in love so we can bounce back more easily when we're faced with challenges.
Yeah, yeah. And to help with this, there are some specific practices that are outlined in the book.
Yeah.
And the first story is called the heart and third eye connection.
Okay.
And it's basically visualizing this bright, luminous bridge between your heart and your third eye.
Interesting. So connecting the heart, which is often associated with love and compassion, with the third eye, which is often associated with intuition and insight.
Yeah, and then breathing your thoughts into your heart. What do you think is the significance of connecting those two centers?
Well, I think it's about integrating our intuition with our emotional intelligence. It's about ensuring that our actions are not only guided by our inner knowing, but also infused with compassion and love.
Right. So it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about doing it from the right place.
Exactly. And the visualization of that luminous bridge, I think, really helps to solidify that energetic connection within ourselves.
Yeah. Now, there's another one that's called activating the lotus of the heart.
Okay.
And this is where you visualize this lotus flower in your heart space, and it's gently spinning and radiating this golden light. What do you think about that?
Well, the lotus is a really powerful symbol in many spiritual traditions. It represents purity, awakening, and the ability to rise above challenges. And the golden light is often associated with divine energy and healing.
So it's like you're activating this potential for growth and transformation within your heart.
Yeah, exactly. It's a beautiful visualization.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's aligning with the sacred geometry of infinity.
Okay.
And this is where you picture yourself inside this spinning Merkaba.
Ah, the Merkaba. Yeah, that's a fascinating geometric form. Those two interlocking tetrahedrons, it's often seen as a symbol of our personal light body, our energy field, and a vehicle for spiritual transformation.
Yeah. And so connecting that with your heart, it's like you're aligning yourself with this field of infinite love and potential.
Right, and it's about activating that potential within ourselves. And the spinning motion suggests a dynamic energy, a sense of movement and expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final one in this section is expanding the golden light of the heart.
Right.
So you're taking that golden light that's emanating from your heart, and you're kind of consciously expanding it outwards.
That makes sense. It's like sharing that love and light with the world around us. It's a way of radiating those positive vibrations outward and creating a ripple effect of healing. Yeah. And it's interesting because it doesn't say that you have to like direct it at anyone or anything in particular.
Right.
It's just expanding it outwards.
So it's more about cultivating that energy within ourselves
Yeah.
and allowing it to naturally flow outward, touching everything and everyone it encounters.
Yeah. And then it goes into a little bit more detail about activating the Merkaba.
Okay.
And this is where you actually visualize the two tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions around you. And it's about amplifying your heart's energy and creating this really strong protective field.
So it's not just about visualizing the Merkaba, it's about actually feeling it spinning, activating it as a dynamic energy field around our body.
Yeah. And the book says that this is a field of love, protection, and healing.
It's like creating a sacred space within ourselves, a sanctuary where we can connect with our higher potential and access those healing energies.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a section about activating the upper heart chakra using pink light.
Okay.
And this is the chakra that connects the heart to the throat.
Right. So linking the energy of love with the ability to express ourselves clearly and authentically.
Yeah, and pink is often associated with compassion and gentleness, so it makes sense that it would be used to activate this energy center.
Absolutely. It's about speaking our truth, but from a place of love rather than from fear or judgment.
Yeah. And then this section also brings in the sacred geometry of the flower of life to kind of enhance the chakra healing.
Okay.
And it specifically mentions merging with the pink light in the upper heart chakra. Now, the flower of life is this really intricate pattern.
Yeah, it's a beautiful geometric form. It's made up of overlapping circles, and it's often seen as a symbol of creation, interconnectedness, and the divine blueprint of the universe.
Yeah. And so it's like using the sacred geometry to really kind of amplify and align that upper heart energy.
And to connect it with the very essence of creation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another really important concept in this book, the power of gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that comes up again and again in spiritual teachings and personal growth work. It's really seen as a foundational practice for well-being.
And this book presents it as this almost sacred key that can unlock states of enlightenment and balance. And it mentions how this idea of gratitude is found in so many different traditions.
Right, from ancient wisdom traditions like Taoism and Vedic philosophy to indigenous cultures around the world. It seems to be this universal principle that's recognized across cultures and throughout history.
And it's not just a spiritual concept.
Right.
The book talks about how there's actual scientific research that shows that gratitude can increase heart coherence, which we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
and it can reduce stress hormones and boost those happy neurotransmitters in the brain like dopamine and serotonin.
So there's a real physiological basis for the benefits of gratitude. It's not just a feel-good concept.
Right. And the book lists so many benefits. It talks about reduced stress and anxiety, improved immunity and heart health, enhanced emotional resilience. It even says that gratitude can rewire our brains to be more positive.
Wow.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense because when we're focused on gratitude, we're training our minds to look for the good, to appreciate the blessings in our lives, and that can have a profound effect on our overall well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it brings in this quantum physics perspective, which is that gratitude is like a high vibrational state.
Right.
And that by focusing on gratitude, we're actually turning into a higher frequency.
And according to the law of resonance, so by raising our vibration through gratitude, we're more likely to attract positive experiences into our lives.
Yeah. So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about actually attracting more good things into your reality.
Right.
Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting because the book brings in those Dr. Emoto's water experiments.
Oh, yeah. Those are fascinating.
Where he was showing how words and intentions can actually affect the structure of water. And he found that when you expose water to positive words like gratitude, it forms these really beautiful, harmonious crystals.
Right. So the idea is that if our thoughts and intentions can have such a profound effect on water, and our bodies are mostly water, imagine the impact they can have on our own cells and our overall well-being.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
So it's like gratitude is not just this mental or emotional state, it's actually having this physical impact.
Exactly. And it speaks to the power of our thoughts and intentions to shape our reality.
Yeah. Okay, so there's also a connection here to the sacred geometry of gratitude.
Okay.
And it talks about how gratitude is aligned with the flower of life, which we talked about earlier, which
Yeah.
represents expansion and interconnectedness.
Right.
But it's also aligned with the Merkaba, which is that vehicle for transformation and spiritual growth.
So it's like using these powerful geometric forms to amplify the energy of gratitude and to help us embody its transformative power.
Yeah, absolutely. And it talks about how gratitude has this ripple effect.
Right. It's not just about our individual experience. It extends outwards.
It affects our relationships, our communities, and even the consciousness of the planet.
So by cultivating gratitude, we're not only benefiting ourselves, we're contributing to a more positive and harmonious world.
Yeah. And then it gives some really practical tips for cultivating gratitude.
Okay. Like what?
Well, one of them is to try to make an effort to feel gratitude every 5 minutes.
Wow, that's a challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But the idea is that you're constantly kind of shifting your focus to what you appreciate.
Right. So instead of dwelling on what's wrong, you're actively looking for things to be grateful for.
Yeah. And it also talks about starting each day by writing down 5 things you're grateful for.
That's a good one. I like that.
And consciously returning to gratitude when you're facing challenges.
That's a tough one, but it's so important. Because when we're going through difficult times, it's easy to lose sight of the good. But by consciously focusing on gratitude, we can shift our perspective and find strength and resilience.
Yeah. And then it talks about this thing called mirror work,
Okay.
which is basically looking at yourself in the mirror and speaking words of gratitude aloud.
That's a powerful practice. It's like
Yeah.
giving yourself positive affirmations, but with the added layer of seeing yourself as you speak those words.
Yeah. And the book says that it's really good for programming your subconscious mind.
Right. Because the subconscious is very receptive to repetition and visual cues. So by looking at ourselves in the mirror and speaking those words of gratitude, we're sending a powerful message to our subconscious mind that we are worthy of abundance and blessings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then it has this quote from Rumi,
Oh, I love Rumi.
wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed every corner of your life.
That's beautiful. And it really captures the essence of what the book is saying about gratitude.
Yeah.
That it's not just a fleeting emotion, it's a way of being that can nourish and enrich every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to another really interesting concept.
All right.
This is called the sacred geometry of infinite love.
That sounds intriguing.
And this is apparently more than just a symbol.
Okay.
It's described as this multidimensional tool that can help align us with higher dimensions of consciousness.
So it's not just a pretty picture. It actually has energetic properties.
Right. And one of the key things it talks about is synchronizing the third eye and the heart.
So again, bringing together intuition and compassion, but this time using a specific geometric form as a focal point.
Yeah. And it says that when you do that, you can consciously project love-based realities.
Wow. So it's like using the power of our focused intention combined with the energy of love to create the reality we desire.
Yeah. And it's not just this geometry in isolation, it's also connected to the 12 rays of divine light and 16 ascended masters.
So it's like this whole cosmic support system surrounding this sacred geometry. And the number 12, of course, is significant in many spiritual traditions. It represents completion, wholeness, the cycles of time. And the number 16 is often associated with spiritual awakening and mastery.
Yeah. And it says that this geometry is the foundation for something called the etheric chamber of healing,
Okay.
which is basically a dedicated energetic space for deep healing and multidimensional expansion.
That's a virtual healing sanctuary that we can access through visualization.
Yeah. And there are some specific exercises that are given for connecting with this geometry. One is called the morning vibration elevation.
Yeah.
And it's basically a meditation practice where you visualize yourself in this sky tower. And you also do some gratitude journaling.
So it's like starting your day by aligning with higher frequencies and setting a positive intention for the day ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's another one called heart-based projection.
Okay. And this is where you visualize the heart geometry and this golden energetic link extending from your heart to your third eye. And you project feelings of love outward.
So again, connecting the heart and the mind, but this time with the added element of projecting that loving energy outward.
Yeah. And the book emphasizes that this geometry isn't just a static image.
Right.
It's a living energy field that evolves with your own spiritual growth.
It's like a dynamic tool that grows and expands with us as we evolve on our spiritual journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's a section here that's called the Heart Song.
Okay.
And it's said to be channeled from a guide named Master Shams.
Master Shams.
And it talks about the heart as the gateway to experiencing infinite love and our multidimensional self.
So it's not just an energy center, it's a portal to other realms of existence and other aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives this practice for opening the heart as a portal.
Which involves focusing your attention on your heart, breathing into it, visualizing its light expanding, and then setting this intention to connect with your higher self.
It's a beautiful practice. It's about cultivating receptivity and allowing ourselves to be guided by the wisdom of our higher self.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the 12 rays of light.
Okay.
Now, these are described as specific frequencies of divine energy that each have their own unique healing properties.
Interesting. So it's like a spectrum of divine light, each color carrying a different vibration and healing potential.
Yeah, and each ray is connected to an archangel, a color, and a chakra.
So it's like a really intricate system of correspondences.
Yeah. So, for example, the blue ray is associated with Archangel Michael, the color blue, and the throat chakra.
Right. Archangel Michael is often seen as a protector and a guide. And the throat chakra is associated with communication and self-expression.
Yeah. And then there's the white ray, which is connected to Archangel Gabriel, the color white, and the crown chakra.
Gabriel is often seen as a messenger of divine truth. And the crown chakra is our connection to the divine, to higher consciousness.
Yeah. And the green ray is associated with Archangel Raphael, the color green, and the heart chakra.
Raphael is known as the healing angel, and the heart chakra is, of course, the center of love and compassion.
Right. And then there's the purple or violet ray, which is connected to Archangel Zadkiel, the color purple, and the third eye chakra.
Zadkiel is often associated with transformation and spiritual awakening, and the third eye is our center of intuition and insight.
Yeah. And the gold ray is connected to Archangel Metatron, the color gold, and the crown chakra.
Metatron is often seen as a bridge between the human and the divine, and gold represents divine wisdom and illumination.
Yeah. And the ruby red ray is associated with Archangel Uriel, the color red, and the root chakra.
Uriel is often associated with grounding and stability, and the root chakra is our foundation, our connection to the earth.
Yeah. And finally, the turquoise ray is linked to Archangel Sandalphon, the color turquoise, and the throat and heart chakras.
Sandalphon is often seen as a messenger between heaven and earth, and turquoise represents communication, healing, and balance.
Yeah. And the book says that these ideas aren't new. It actually draws connections to ancient practices like Zoroastrianism and even the architecture of Persia, where light and color were used for therapeutic purposes.
That's fascinating. It suggests that these principles have been understood and utilized for centuries, perhaps even millennia.
Yeah. And then it talks about how you can actually work with these 12 rays.
Okay, how so?
Well, one way is to breathe in the colored light through the corresponding chakra.
So, for example, if you wanted to work with the blue ray, you would visualize breathing in blue light through your throat chakra.
Yeah. And it also talks about doing a chakra balancing by cycling through all 12 rays.
So, starting with the root chakra and moving up to the crown, visualizing each color in its corresponding archangel.
Yeah. And you can also just visualize being bathed in a specific colored light for healing.
So, if you were feeling ungrounded, you might visualize being surrounded by ruby red light.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So the next section talks about using crystals and sacred geometry for healing.
Okay.
And it's not just about having pretty stones.
Right.
The book says that crystals have their own unique vibrational frequencies, and that these frequencies can resonate with specific organs and systems in the body.
Interesting. So it's like each crystal has a specific energetic signature that can interact with our own energy field.
Yeah. And then when you combine crystals with sacred geometry, it amplifies the healing intentions.
So it's like using the geometry to focus and direct the energy of the crystals.
Yeah. And it talks about creating crystal grids.
Okay.
And these can be used for both in-person healing and for sending distance healing.
So it's like creating an energetic network of crystals that can channel and amplify healing energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives a specific affirmation that you can use to activate the crystal grids.
I imagine that intention is really important when working with crystals.
It is. And it gives a specific example of a crystal grid that you can use for the circulatory system. This is called the Seed of Life grid.
The seed of life. Okay, yeah, that's another powerful geometric form. It represents creation, potential, and the interconnectedness of all things.
Yeah. And it uses crystals like rose quartz, bloodstone, garnet, emerald, and red jasper.
So a combination of crystals that are known for their heart healing and energizing properties.
Yeah. And then it talks about the matrix of infinity.
Okay.
Which is formed by interlocking triangles that create this hexagram shape.
Ah, the hexagram. That's a symbol that's found in many different cultures and traditions. It often represents the union of opposites, balance, and harmony.
Yeah. And the book says that this geometry is the key to unlocking unlimited potential and achieving divine balance.
It's like a cosmic code that holds the blueprint for our highest potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So the next section is called Planetary Connections for Organ Healing. And this draws on ancient Taoist practices.
Okay.
And it talks about how the human body is like a microcosm of the universe.
Right. The idea that as above, so below, that the same patterns and principles that govern the cosmos are also reflected within us.
Yeah. And so it connects each planet with specific elements, organs, and emotions.
Okay, so it's like a system of correspondences between the planets and our physical and emotional well-being.
Yeah. So, for example, the sun is connected to the element of fire, the heart, and the small intestine, and the emotions of joy and anxiety.
Okay, so it's like the sun's energy nourishes the heart and helps us to radiate our own inner light and joy. But when that energy is blocked or imbalanced, it can manifest as anxiety.
Yeah. And then Jupiter is connected to the element of wood, the liver and gallbladder, and the emotions of growth and anger.
So Jupiter's expansive energy is associated with growth and expansion, but when that energy is blocked, it can manifest as anger or frustration.
Yeah. And then Venus is connected to the element of metal, the lungs and large intestine, and the spiritual essence of Po, which is related to grief.
So, Venus is associated with beauty, harmony, and connection. But when that energy is blocked, it can lead to feelings of sadness, loss, and grief.
Yeah. And then Saturn is connected to the element of earth, the spleen and stomach, and the emotion of worry.
Saturn is often associated with structure, discipline, and responsibility. And when its energy is blocked, it can manifest as worry, overthinking, and a sense of heaviness.
Yeah. And then Mercury is connected to the element of water, the kidneys and bladder, and the spiritual essence of Z, which is connected to willpower and fear.
So Mercury is associated with communication, adaptability, and flow. And when its energy is blocked, it can lead to fear, insecurity, and a lack of willpower.
Yeah. And the book also mentions the moon's influence on our body's fluid balance.
Right. The moon is associated with the tides and with our emotions, and it makes sense that it would also influence the flow of fluids in our body.
Yeah. And so the idea behind all of this is that we can use these planetary connections to facilitate healing.
So by understanding the correspondences between the planets and our bodies, we can work with those energies to restore balance and harmony.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this leads into a section about healing through celestial and elemental connections within the Shimana etheric chamber.
Yeah.
And so it builds on these planetary element organ correspondences. And it describes this process where you first ground yourself, then you bring in this 11th dimensional light.
Wow, 11th dimensional light. That's getting into some high-level frequencies.
It is. It is. And then you visualize this lotus flower descending, and then the 12 rays of light and the 16 ascended masters appear.
It's like creating this sacred space within the etheric chamber, this portal to higher dimensions and divine guidance.
Yeah. And then you align with specific planets based on what you need to heal.
So, for example, if someone is dealing with heart trauma, they might align with the energies of Mars and fire.
Yeah. And if they're struggling with anger, they might align with Jupiter and wood.
And if they're experiencing grief, they might align with Venus and metal.
Right. And for worry, Saturn and earth. And for fear, Mercury and water.
So it's a very personalized approach, using the specific planetary energies that are needed to address the individual's needs.
Yeah. And the book says that they also use healing codes and sacred geometry to address blockages.
And the synchronized energies of the guides and ascended masters.
Right. And they do chakra activation within the etheric chamber.
Okay, how so?
Well, they use the infinity symbol for the third eye and heart.
So, connecting intuition and love.
White healing light for the throat and solar plexus.
Bringing harmony and balance to communication and personal power.
The flower of life for expanding the heart.
Opening the heart to greater love and compassion.
And they activate the Merkaba.
Amplifying the energy field and promoting spiritual transformation.
Yeah. And then it gives some steps for working with the etheric chamber.
Okay.
So you first ground yourself. You visualize infinite love surrounding you. You chant the mantra Shimana Om.
So setting the intention and invoking the divine frequency of healing.
Yeah. And then you activate the light and the lotus flower, and you hold the intention for the healing you desire.
It's like creating a ritual for connecting with these powerful healing energies and directing them towards a specific purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to another really important aspect of the system.
Okay.
It's called releasing trapped emotions.
Okay.
And this is based on the idea that a lot of diseases and imbalances come from energetic blockages that are rooted in our emotions.
Right. So it's not just about addressing the physical symptoms, it's about going deeper and looking at the emotional root causes.
Yeah. And the book talks about 5 key categories for where these trapped emotions can come from.
Okay.
Personal experiences that we've gone through.
So traumas, hurts, difficult experiences that we haven't fully processed or released.
Trauma experience at the preconception or soul level.
So traumas that we might carry with us from past lives or from the time before we were even born.
Imprints received during prenatal development and birth.
So the energetic and emotional environment that we're exposed to while we're in the womb can have a lasting impact on us.
Ancestral and genetic emotional patterns passed down through our lineage.
So we might inherit emotional patterns and traumas from our parents, grandparents, and even further back in our family tree.
And emotions absorbed from the collective consciousness.
So the energetic field of humanity as a whole can also influence us and contribute to our emotional baggage.
Yeah.